Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on KKDIK and responsibilities on registration. Some of you may recognize me. My name is Mirac, and I am Turkey Business Coordinator and Regulatory Researcher at GPC Group. And today we will talk about the responsibilities in KKDIK now that we are in the registration phase. Some of you may know. And this is our outline for today. So we will cover these topics generally. We will talk about KKDIK in a nutshell, just to remember or to know about KKDIK's important features. And we will check the timeline now to see where we are at and where we are heading to. And we will check the most recent updates from the Ministry on KKDIK regulation. We will see what the current situation is, what we are dealing with right now. We will see what the roles and responsibilities are now that we are in the registration phase. And we will also talk about your obligations in this phase as non-Turkish manufacturers. And also, of course, we will mention our role and what we do, how we can help you in this process. So KKDIK in a nutshell, just to check it again. KKDIK, actually, the name comes from just abbreviation, which translates exactly to REACH. So by law on registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals. But just because of the difference in the languages, some words are replaced in the order. Actually, it's just an exact translation of REACH. And KKDIK regulation came into force on June 23rd, 2017 as an EU adaptation policy, and that's why the name is also exactly the same as EU REACH. And competent authority for this regulation is Ministry of Environment and Urbanization of Turkish Republic. And prior to this regulation, there were 3 other regulations: by law on safety data sheets of hazardous substances and mixtures, by law on inventory and control of chemicals, by law on restriction and ban of hazardous substances and mixtures. So KKDIK regulation merges all these regulations, and also at the same time it replaces them. And the first one, by law on safety data sheets of hazardous substances and mixtures, the replacement have been started as of 2021, and it will go on until 2024. And by the 1st of January 2024, it will be completely replaced. It will be outdated, and the only regulation covering those topics will be KKDIK. Right now, both can be used, but of course, it is recommended to follow KKDIK. The aim of KKDIK is mentioned in Article 1 of the regulation, and as you see, it says the purpose of this bylaw is to ensure a high level of protection of human health and the environment, including the promotion of alternative methods for assessment of hazards of substances while enhancing competitiveness and innovation. So here, what this article tells us actually is why this is important to us, is so we can understand the purpose of all these processes better. Why did we pre-register? Why are we going to register our substances now? So we know about the purposes of these actions now. That the ministry basically in Turkey wants to know, as the EU wanted to know also previously, wants to know how chemicals are manufactured and also circulated inside Turkish borders, and what their risks to human and environment, human health and environment are. So ministry can follow from the minute the substance is produced or entered into Turkish border until it is either recycled or discarded into waste. So if you look at the timeline now, as I have mentioned before, it started in 2017 when the regulation came into force. And we had the pre-registration phase from 23rd of December 2017 until the deadline was 31st of December 2020, according to regulation. And during this phase, notification of substances was the important action to do. And also CLP notification for local manufacturers and importers was an obligation for them. And however, I will also talk about that later on, but according to ministry's latest updates, there is extended pre-registration phase now that although we are in registration phase, now we can also do late pre-registration after this deadline to be able to take advantage of the SIEF structure as much as possible to be able to submit as crowded joint submissions as possible, basically. And today we have passed the first deadline, the first phase, and we are in the registration phase. And of course, important actions during this phase is that we need to submit the registration dossier until the end of this phase, which is 31st of December 2023. And we need to, of course, inside this dossier include chemical safety assessment if it's needed, also if it's needed, safety data sheet, and also studies. And again, if our substances will be in the authorization list, then we will have to apply for a permit application. But again, during this phase, we can still continue doing pre-registrations. And again, I will talk about that part right on after this, but the main objective is to register substances in this phase. And after this phase ends by the 1st of January 2024, the post-registration phase will begin. And during this phase, the most important thing is keeping all the information up to date about our substances and our dossiers. And we will have to communicate with ministry a lot on evaluation of our registration dossiers. And of course, the substances. Also, one important thing about this registration phase now is that again, like because of the extended pre-registration period, now we can still notify our substances for SIF formation, basically. But also now we have to do CLP notification of substances. And again, I will talk about this later on, but now it's a bit more extended responsibility on CLP notification. So regarding the updates we have, I mentioned the extension of pre-registration period. This is considered a bit unofficial because for something to be official in Turkey, it needs to be included in the official newspaper or official gazette. However, this was not announced in there. This was not published in there. It is just the announcement of the ministry. That's why we call it unofficial. But since the one who announces ministry, still we can follow ministry's directives on this one. And according to ministry, extended pre-registration period will last until the end of 2023, so until the end of the registration period. However, since it is the registration phase right now, the earlier the late pre-registration is, the better involvement in the SIF. So you have more say in the SIF, basically, especially about appointing or electing the lead registrant. And LR appointment was supposed to be 1st of January 2021, but then it was postponed to 15th of February. And now it is postponed until March 2021, which is something we are happy of because we were also involved in communication of this to allow many manufacturers and importers and also companies that we represent and all other ORs represent for them to prepare their inventories. So, and also we know that in Turkey many companies are they lack the experience with EU REACH. So it's better to not rush this and begin by March to have a healthy and democratic SIF environment. And in relation to this, of course, pre-registration submitted after 15th of February, which is the announcement date of postponement, cannot be deleted. And this is mainly to protect the SIFs from getting, should I say, fake pre-registrations, basically, to protect the interest of all the SIF participants. And voting system will be integrated into KKS to also prevent any other unclarification about who the lead registrant will be. And sometimes the SIFs are really crowded, so it can be messy to have 150 or 250 companies sending emails to each other on who to vote for. So for this purpose, for a healthy and transparent election of lead registrant, voting system will be integrated into KKS and it will be available by the beginning of March 2021. Again, these were all the concerns we have communicated to ministry before, and we are gladly now announcing these updates that the ministry also followed the common sense. And according to ministry again, the CHESAR tool for chemical safety report preparation will be integrated to KKS latest by the last quarter of 2021, according to the ministry. And the SME fee calculator is integrated into KKS, so it is easier to calculate the official costs right now over KKS. There was also an amendment on CLP regulation of Turkey. So the biggest amendment on this update was that the list of harmonized classification and labeling was renewed. 110 new reference substances were added, and 108 new classifications were added to the existing substances. And this is just mirroring the 13th adaptation of European CLP regulation, basically. And also, as I mentioned before, now the notification obligation is a bit changed. It's a bit widened. That now, previously it was just the classified substances that needed to be notified for CLP. But now, if the substance is required to be registered under KKDIK regulation, then it also needs to be notified for CLP regulation. And also, now we are clearly informed in this new amendment that the ORs for KKDIK regulation can also be representative of non-Turkish manufacturers on this CLP notification, although still the CLP notification itself is mostly the responsibility of the importer, because this is to make sure the substances under safe precautions, basically, and measurements in the manufacturing place or the depot or wherever it is inside the Turkish borders. So that's why it's mostly a responsibility of the importer. However, now we can also link the importers in the KKS tool, KKS portal of the ministry. So basically we can do the CLP notification on behalf as well. And also previously CLP notifications counted as pre-registration, not anymore. With this new amendment, they are just CLP notifications and pre-registrations are separate. Also, according to ministry, downstream user features in KKS will be unlocked by 2022 January 3rd. And until then, downstream users can still use KKS basically to add themselves and their plants in there, their addresses, so that we can also add them, or any other user can add them in the supply chain system on KKS. And to talk about current situation, what's happening under KKDIK right now? Basically, safe communications have kickstarted as of January, and we are receiving also a lot of communication from many companies in CIFs, they being other owner representatives or local manufacturers in Turkey, as well as importers. And basically these communications, most of them, majority of them, include the lead registrant candidate announcements. And previously we have communicated to our clients, because the LPR, late pre-registration, was unofficial. We didn't know clearly if that would bring any problems with the trade to Turkey, with the exporting or not. So far, we have asked many clients of ours, importers, and also our knowledge partners in Turkey. And so far, there's no late pre-registration related issue. And we have also confirmed this with one of the officials in the ministry, although it's not an official announcement from the ministry. We have confirmed this information with one of the officials working at the ministry, help desk, basically. And for CLP notifications, right now they're going on, as I said. Now the responsibility is extended. The most important part about this is the supply chain notification, because it is also integrated with the CLP notification. that the buyers of manufacturers, either they can be local or abroad, they need to be added for this CLP notification in the system, so the ministry can follow where the chemical is going and which companies down the supply chain are using them. And this will help the ministry and also the C participants during the registration process as well. And many companies, as I said before, are now forming their individual inventory. And by inventory, what I mean is what substance to register in Turkey. So right now it is going on. And as I said, by the beginning of March, the lead registrant appointment or election will be activated by the ministry on KKS tool. So until then, many companies have started to form their inventories, but also it can take a bit longer than that. Although the registration phase is not that long as in EU, it's pretty narrow. It's only from the beginning of 2021 until the end of 2023. Still, some companies, some CEFs may take time on appointing a lead registrant and also deciding whether they want to register or not. So let's have a quick review of registration, what it is about. First of all, of course, the exemptions. What do we not have to register? If the substances are imported only to be used in biocidals and plant protection products, and they are included in the active ingredient lists of these respective regulations, then they are exempted from registration. If the substances are used in human or veterinary medicines, again, they are exempted. If they're included in annexes 4 and 5, which are mostly naturally occurring substances, these are also exempted unless they are, of course, chemically modified. Polymers that fit the polymer definition in KKDIK regulation, they are exempted, but their monomers are not. So if it fits the polymer definition, then the monomers need to be registered under KKDIK. And re-isolated intermediates and transported intermediates are also. And substances that are recycled in Turkey, that is registered before, so produced in Turkey before or imported to Turkey before, and then exported from Turkey and then came back to Turkey to be recycled. Those are considered to be already in the same supply chain. And also related to this point, again, substances that are exported from Turkey, the supply chain in Turkey, and then re-imported by the same supply chain again, since they have been registered before, they are not, they shouldn't be registered again. And substances used in food and feedstock are also exempted. And if the substance is less than 1 ton per annum, then it is again exempted. Although this is just a registration exemption, these substances may have other obligations in the other parts of the regulation, such as the authorization part, or they can be restricted. So if you look at the data requirements for registration, a full registration has different levels of data requirements, of course. The general requirement is same for all the tonnage bands, which we have 4 tonnage bands, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1000, and more than 1000. The general requirement is, of course, the identification of the registrant and of the substance, and information on production and usage of the substance for the registrant, and also the classification and labeling information. And these are all mentioned in Annex 6 of the regulation. And for the first tonnage band, if the substance is not hazardous, only physical chemical properties are required. However, if it is hazardous, then in addition to physical chemical properties, toxicological and ecotoxicological properties according to Annex 7 are also required. For substances falling under 10 to 100 tons per annum, in addition to previous requirements, require exposure information according to Annexes 7 and 8, and also from this tonnage band and above, chemical safety report is now required. If the substance is between 100 and 1000 tons per annum, then in addition, test proposals to prove physical chemical properties are required according to Annex 9. And again, if it's more than 1000 tons per annum, then test proposal to prove ecotoxicological and toxicological properties that according to annexes 9 and 10 are required. And as you can see, as the tonnage increases, basically more data requirement comes. And if you look at the data requirements for isolated intermediate registration, we have less requirements this time. As you can see, again, the general requirement is the same as before. It's the information mentioned in Annex 6. However, now we have two tonnage bands, 1 to 1,000, and then 1,000, more than 1,000, and under transit. So between 1 to 1,000 tons per annum of isolated intermediate registration, details of risk management measures are required, physicochemical properties are required, effects on human health and environment are required, and if it is not properly secured, then standard testing regime information is required as per Annex 11. And if it is more than 1,000 tons per annum and under transit, then in addition, physicochemical, toxicological, and ecotoxicological properties are required to be submitted. And if the chemical safety report is required, which is for substances more than 10 tons per annum, unless the substance is in a mixture and less than the defined threshold in Annex 1 of CLP regulation, or if the substance is PBT or basically permanent and bioaccumulative or toxic and less than 0.1 weight% of the chemical. The report includes the human health hazards, physicochemical hazards, environmental impact and hazards, and the PBT and VP/VB evaluation. This is only to be prepared by a certified chemical assessment expert as per Annex 18 of the regulation. And if the safety data sheet is required, it is again prepared by a chemical safety assessment expert. But as I said before, the previous STS regulation is still in place until the end of 2023, and that's why until 2024, it can also be prepared by a expert or a certified author according to the previous STS regulation. And of course, the safety data sheet must be in Turkish, and it is needed if the substance is hazardous according to CLP regulation, if it is a PBT substance, if it's SVHC and in candidate for authorization list, and the STS basically includes the standard 16 heading, so it is in the global format. Now coming to joint registration, which is usually the most of the concerning case for many SEEF participants. The steps defined by ministry are first, of course, the lead registrant should be elected by the SEEF. It can be only one candidate. In that case, that candidate will be the lead registrant. Otherwise, if there are multiple candidates, there will be election. There will be voting, as I said before, on the KKS portal. And then after the election is complete, the lead registrant is basically registered into that dossier by the ministry on KKS again, and all other SEEF participants can see that company is the lead registrant. And SEEF members who would like to join the dossier need to inform the lead registrant, so the lead registrant can include all these members in the submission. So the lead registrant will then create the application, including those members who would like to join, and also their users of the same substance. And in case a company in the SEEF wants an individual registration, then it is necessary for them to apply to ministry with a valid reason, because ministry's main aim is to prevent repetition of the studies, of the tests. So that's why ministry wants as many joint registration as possible. And then members will complete their part of the dossier after the lead registrant submits the application, and then every SEEF participant will finish the rest of the information that is left for them to fill in the dossier individually. So after submission, after everyone submits their dossier, ministry will give an application number and date to the dossier, and then there will be a check of completion, if it's complete or not, if the application is well made or not. within 3 weeks. And then if there's a missing part, ministry will give a deadline to correct the application. If there isn't any missing part, then the ministry decides whether to accept or not. And if the deadline is not met, of course, the application will be refused and there will be no refund. If the ministry accepts the application, then the substance will be registered and a registration number and date will be given. And after that, the evaluation process will start for the substance. So what are the roles and responsibilities now that we are in the registration phase? Basically, every SIF participant should vote among the LR candidates or become a candidate themselves to make it as quick as possible after the given date by the ministry, and gather necessary data to identify the substance. This will be required for the sameness survey later on, which lead registrants will circulate among each SIF. And downstream users need to register their companies on the ministry's environmental portal, ECBS, and then of course start using the KKS portal if they haven't already done it yet. So then they can share their environmental identity number with their suppliers. So the manufacturers or importers can add them in the supply chain for future use. Non-Turkish manufacturers, if they have pre-registered via an OR, they should share a list of substances, including the importer information, as I have mentioned in the bullet above about downstream users. So they need to include the importers, their buyers, environmental identity numbers for each substance, and also start deciding which substance to register. So when the ORs share the surveys among the clients, whether they want to register the substance or not, they should be ready. And of course, the owner representatives should start and participate actively in SIF communications because they have already started, most of them, and define the most cost-effective strategy to protect their client interests when it comes to data sharing and multiple lead registrant candidates. And as a non-Turkish manufacturer, your obligations right now to give a short list to let you know what you need to do is keep information regarding substances up to date with your OR, so your OR knows how to represent you the best, and share importer list for your substances so they can add them in the supply chain part of KKS tool. And if you haven't done, if your importer hasn't done the CLP notification on the substance yet, we can, or the ORs can do the CLP notification for on behalf of you and the importer. And you should form an inventory for registration because we, GPC, will start sending our service soon. And share the information we have provided to you, such as certificates, with your buyers, so they also know that for those substances there is an owner representative that is authorized in Turkey. And our role in this process, we can say that we are very experienced with lead registrant and consortium management for more than 400 substances in the EU REACH, and we have already managed more than 9,000 substances. So in this process, utilizing our previous experience, we will represent your best interest in the SIF. We will take LR position whenever possible and whenever required, and manage communication down the supply chain. So there's no miscommunication or lack of information down the supply chain. And this could be important things such as safety data sheets, and follow most economic strategies for your compliance and within the SIFs and in this registration process. And also, we would like to gladly say that our supply chain portal, which Jess has mentioned before, will be also available for Turkey REACH soon. So we will invite your buyers and you into the supply chain portal to be able to manage your substances for Turkey REACH as well, such as the tonnage management, basically. As GPC, Global Product Compliance Group, we are your seamless extension in global regulatory compliance. And as our branch in Turkey, GPC Turkey, has more than 3,200 substances pre-registered and around 300 happy clients only for Turkey. And we are currently active more than 1,600 CIFs. And thank you very much for listening to this webinar and the presentation.